Hi everyone, welcome to today's live session on Model Context Protocol or MCP. Today's session is all about something that's redefining quality assurance, the Model Context Protocol or also known as MCP. So if you've run into testing bottlenecks or felt friction of scaling test coverage with speed and accuracy, you're going to find this session highly insightful. This session won't be just theory, we're going hands-on as well. And by the end of the session, you'll understand how MCP works, where it fits into your existing QA workflows, and how you can actually start using it to build tools for your own needs. Joining us today are two of the sharpest minds in the space, Srinivasan Sekar and Sai Krishna, both directors of engineering at Lambda Test and longtime contributors to open source projects like Appium. Srinivasan and Sai wear multiple hats within the broader open source community and have been working in the testing and automation space for over a decade now. The deep experience solving testing challenges at scale makes them the perfect guides for today's topic. Together, they'll walk us through real world applications of MCP, security best practices when adopting AI in testing, and a live demo where we'll build a custom MCP powered testing tool from scratch. The session will be interactive, so keep your questions ready and we'll save some time at the end to address them. On that note, Srini and Sai, the stage is yours.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Thanks,
Thank you.
So, hi, everyone.
Thanks, Devansh. Hello, everyone. I don't think me and Srini need to talk anything or a quick intro about us. I think Devansh covered, very well. Thank you, Devansh, for that. And today, like Devansh said, we're going to talk about model context protocol. I think that's been a buzz in the entire AI space for a while, right? So everyone's talking about MCP servers and there's a stuff happening. So me and Srini, as a part of Lambda Test and also a part of open source community, I've built quite a lot of MCP servers, which can help people in the Appium world or and in outside Appium world as well, where you can, it's going to help us, speed up our test automation, or could also be productivity in multiple spaces. So we thought we should share what we have done and what is this entire MCP, because when we started off with it, there were too many moving parts to it, and at the same time, things are also changing pretty fast. So we thought, we'll come together, share our experience, talk about what is MCP, and also at the same time, just not talk about what is MCP, but also probably we thought it'll be good if we can take a use case and show you folks a demo and walk you through the code. So it's going to be more of a show and tell as well today. So it's just not about what is MCP and things like that. So we're going to also have a show and tell. So that's going to be real interesting. And in this entire journey of me and Srini working with MCP, right, I think there's another important aspect that we bumped into is about security, right? I know, you could have seen, if you'd have Googled around, have heard about this MCP, there's been a lot of talks about security around it. I think that's another space that we want to touch base based on the time. What kind of things that you need to look through when you're using or when you're building MCP servers and things like that, right? So I think let's jump in and talk a bit more. And like I said, MCP is being a buzz in the AI community for a while, and of course, it's for a good reason. And it's helping us, and it's helping a lot of folks as well. And this is an open source stuff which was initiated by Anthropic, providing a standard way for the AI models to connect with external data sources and tools, right? Basically, it simplifies the entire integration process. So MCP is a set to revolutionize how developers, QAs, testers, engineers, basically, if I can put it that way, who can create AI applications, making it easier to access, real-time data and real-time data and leverage it for good stuff. So basically, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It's easily it's essentially a universal connector, right, for AI. So I think whenever Srini talks about MCP to a lot of folks, he gives a very good example, saying that, hey, it's like an USB C, right? So basically, as of today, if you see the USB C, becomes a adapter which can plug your iPhone, Android, or it could be anything, right? Most of your appliances all can connect through USB C, including our monitors today, right? I mean, I think that's a very good stuff that he relates to, a USB-C, because it's a similar space here, right? Think of it as a USB-C in the AI world, which allows different AI tools and models to interact seamlessly with various data sources. So with MCP, engineers can focus on building innovative applications and ideas instead of spending a lot of time on complex integrations, right? So we'll talk about some of these ideas that what me and Srini have thought about. We have already built, it's open sourced. So we can also talk about those angles. So in fact, to say, I think when this entire MCP buzz was happening, when we started to look through it, I think the first thing that we demoed about MCP with Appium was in the Selenium Conf, and Angie was talking about MCP with Selenium and some of those parts, right? And that's where I think we were discussing why do we actually need an MCP? Is this really is really needed for the R, right? So definitely it is, because as of today, every large language models like Claude, GPT, Gemini or whatnot, right? Or there are a lot of open source large language models as well, and others have transformed our interactions with technology, right? Today, even if you want to write a piece of code, we of course use all of these AI editors, and in a lot of spaces we use this, right? And however, they still have some limitations, right? Particularly when it comes to accessing like real world data. And let's say that I have some information which I've built, and Srini has some information. But how do I exchange this information, right? And until and unless it is streamlined, put on the web, and again, it has to be reachable and things like that. And similarly, where that's where I'm talking. If I have some info and Srini's got some info, it's more like two tools interacting to each other, right? But there are some challenges that the MCP addresses, right? Knowledge limitations. Like LLMs rely on trained data, or probably even some level of web searches today that can quickly become outdated for you, and this makes it difficult for them to provide accurate and real time information, right? And also domain knowledge gaps. See, you might be working in a space where it could be, let's say, it's a space of pharma, right? You won't have much information out in the world which talks about a specific drug and its proportions and the kind of data that it needs. So you see that gap over there from domain knowledge specific, right? I mean, that's a gap when it comes there. And also non-standard integrations, right? So the current methods of connecting to LLMs with external data sources often require some custom solutions. And of course, once you start putting custom solutions, what happens is you end up with high cost and maintenance and sort of inefficiencies there, right? So basically MCP provides unified solutions to these issues, where these LLMs can easily access these kind of data and tools in a very I can put it this way, in a very formed manner, right? So basically how an MCP operates is basically it's a client server architecture, you can take it this way, and the communication happens through an RPC. So basically, because when it's a client server architecture, so you have a server, you have a client, and of course a host also, right? So MCP hosts are nothing but your applications that need contextual AI capabilities, such as your IDs and stuff, right? So you could consider this like mostly like cursor, plot desktops, and things like that. So whereas MCP clients, these maintain a one-on-one communication with your MCP servers, which can handle these protocol very specifically. And MCP servers are basically these lightweight programs that expose a specific capabilities, right, to the MCP interface. Let's say, for example, that you are trying to, say that you want to read some certain issues from GitHub, right? So GitHub has an MCP, so you could basically use that. So that becomes an entire server which can either be kept local or remote. So when I mean to say local or remote, it means that remote is it provides two ways of communication for us. One is initially it had SSC. So what happened was lately SSC's got some lot of drawbacks and downsides. So Anthropic decided to deprecate SSE, and they actually opened up something called HTTP streamable. So that's one level of connecting, and that's kind of remote space. And the local is more like, we build this MCP servers and you can sort of push it into repositories and people can like sort of download it, right? To give a very simple example, you can download it through NPM. So you can publish it to the NPM registry and you can download it through an NPM. You just say npx and it could just download it for you, right? And again, you keeping it on your local where people publish it and things, stuff like that. So basically, as an MCP contributor or a maintainer, to that specific MCP project, if I want to if I keep making some bug fixes and new features, so you should keep downloading some of the latest changes manually. But whereas something sitting on the server side, you don't have to do that because we fix issues, everything resides on the server side. So you just continue to use it, right? So, and there are multiple clients for this you can use. So you could use, a client is there. You could use 𝐕𝐢𝐝. You could use, Cloud Desktop. So there are multiple clients that basically you can start, using over here. And with this, right, let's jump in now to see, because whatever I spoke about MCPs, the clients and the communication, and it's got a set of tools and resources and stuff, right? So we'll go ahead and we have brought up a real world scenario, and we have written some code so we can like sort of share that code, talk about it, and go in detail. And if you have any doubts, you can start putting in your questions in the chat. We can parallelly take it as you see the code, or you can also park it to the end and we can probably take it at the end as well. So Srini, what do we have in store today that we want to show people about a real world problem?
Definitely, Sai. So since we both are contributing to Appium for almost more than a decade, so what if we have an MCP server and that could help me debug my tests, for example, let's say test failures, and it provides me some valuable insights out of test failures so that any of my client can go ahead and correct it then and there in the test. So to start with, I still remember back in 2019 or 2020 Selenium conference, 2019, I believe. I think one of our committer has came up with a wonderful website on listing all the capabilities of Appium.
This is
And
Jonas, right?
Jonas.
Yeah, Jonas, yeah.
That is a wonderful contribution to community because we have around 600 plus capabilities. I don't know that we have 600 plus capabilities, honestly. And nobody knows, including Appium committers, nobody knows everything at one shot. And since we have so many, and that helps us to improve our productivity. So let's say if test fails, for example, for some XYZ reason, and majority of times we go ahead analyze, okay, there is a capability for this to bypass or to expedite, let's say our tests are slow, and there is a capability in iOS world to expedite your tests, so we can go ahead use it. But yeah, until unless I know the exact capability, and we have multiple sources for these capabilities again. So Appium has a team who has maintaining vast knowledge on capabilities across 3 different sources, one on GitHub, one on, through the code README itself, and another place it is on Docs website. So for different platforms, it is at different places, and it gets outdated as soon as driver has some changes majorly. So keeping track of all of these will be going to be a tedious job. So the problem statement for today is, let's come up with a MCP server that could give me capabilities that are relevant for my ask. For example, tell me some capabilities that I can use to parallelize my tests. So that could be quite a lot, but what are those important capabilities? So if you have an MCP server, if I ask it, and if it gives me the answer and also goes ahead and changes my test to parallelize it, so it's going to be a boom, right? So we can improve our productivity. I think MCPs are going to play a wide role in terms of productivity enhancements, especially in today's era. So maybe we'll quickly go through the code that we have that could help people. The use cases are vast. today we have picked only a couple of use cases, but we do have a bunch of things lined up. We will release it probably in a day or two, or probably early next week. Yeah.
So Srini, are you also going to show that if there's an exception in a test, so
Yeah.
it can, sort of look through it, understand what it is, and also fix our tests?
Yes. I have a simple MCP project, and it's called MCP Appium, and just scribbled some time ago. And what do we have currently is, so we don't have any presentation, so it's going to be show and tell. So if you see, the dependencies that we have is a pure MCP dependency, and we don't have anything that is suspicious or anything from Appium itself. So we do have a Braver.io here to show a demo on one of the Appium tests. That's it. So someone also has asked about, can we build an MCP server in any tech stack? Yes, of course, you can build it on any tech stack. And what we are going to do, what we have picked it today is Node, in TypeScript. So we have added Model Context Protocol SDK from TypeScript, and it's readily available. So Sai was talking about client-server architecture of MCP, right? So today I'm going to use the client as ru, or I do have both client as ru and also client. So we have both the clients available, going to play a huge role in going together with the MCP servers and act as a coding agent as well today, right? So quickly jumping into the server part, the server which we are building is going to be running in local, which basically runs the index.js available in build. So let's see what do we have inside index.js, and we are building server, right? So here is how we initialize. Here's how we initialize MCP server. So MCP server has three important capabilities. One is called tools, two is resources, and the third one, last one, is prompt. Not all clients do support. When I say clients, ru, Cloud Desktop client doesn't support, many of these doesn't support prompt. Cloud Desktop does support prompt. Client and ru doesn't support prompts yet, which is okay. So tools are nothing but a simple function. So I was also talking about MCP has a capability to talk to any language models or any tools, any data sources, be it remote or local, right? So tools has the capability. Tools can play a significant role, which in term basically a small function. A tool, we can assume it as provide insights on Appium logs. So it could be one of the two. Resources are nothing but, Sai has wonderfully mentioned about pharma, right? So what if I am in a pharma domain, and fortunately or unfortunately, Sai did spend good amount of time in pharma domain for in the last 2-3 years. So I could relate to it. So the knowledge base is quite siloed. When I say siloed, it's not available publicly, and this varies between organizations in the pharma industry. So if I have to feed this knowledge and train it, it's going to take a lot of time. So what if I have an application, AI application that uses MCP server and talks to my knowledge base scattered across different sources? So that could be a game changer on pharma industry, because I can ask any information about any particular, for example, medicine, composition of the medicine. It can quickly get it from the data source. Otherwise, we have to write adapters. I was talking about multiple adapters or custom solutions. So team A build one, team B build one, end up maintaining team A is one, team B is one. There's going to be interoperability issues. So that's going to be a never-ending problem. So MCP fills that gap. So you can talk to GitHub, talk to Jira, talk to Confluence, talk to MongoDB, for example. So you can talk to any data source, be it remote or local. So resources is going to augment the knowledge of LLM. So there is no cutoff date for it here. So it can talk to live data source. It can also talk to static data source that probably doesn't change so frequently. So resources one of the resource that we have currently here is, you see here, caps.json. So which basically has a lot of information about all the capabilities that we have in Appium. So Appium has tons of capabilities, and we don't know the meaning of quite a few. Probably we need to dig deeper at times or understand from the description at times by going through some of the, why it was introduced, to go through and how it has to be used, right? So it can take up multiple values. Why, when, where, what was the scenario we need to set this up? So description is going to be a key role, and this information is scattered across 3 different sources. Of course, in the Appium organization has 100 plus repositories. And when it is scattered, I think we thought, okay, let's unify this and see how many we have. And we do have around 700, almost 700, going to be probably going to be 700. So when to use what? Probably if we feed this resource to an Appium, to an agent, it can tell me by analyzing, okay, there is a problem here and this goes by this capability. If you use this capability, your problem is going to be solved. Like, for example, let's say my problem statement is to build a parallelized test framework. And I do have few scripts. How do I parallelize it for Android? So what are the capabilities that I need to take care of, or any other things that I need to take care of? So if my LLM has this knowledge, live knowledge, so it can feed me then and there analyzing, okay, these are the capabilities as per the description that we need to use, right? So that's what we are going to do from the resource perspective. We are going to feed this knowledge to a coding agent like client, and client could help me with.
Srini, we lost you in between when you were talking about client can help us.
Okay. So I was
Just
talking
if you
about client could help me. Let's say if my MCP server gives my client as a client with all these capabilities, then client can infer knowledge from these capabilities, that these are the list of capabilities that has to be used in the script to parallelize tests. So that's what resources is going to do first. So let's go ahead and check what do we have in resources first. So we do added setup tool handlers, setup resource handlers. So now let me quickly go through the resource handlers first. Okay, so I was talking about Studio and also SSE a few minutes ago, and we are going to run this MCP Appium in local. So we are using Studio Transfer. If we have to do host it somewhere and use it in remote, then we had something called SSE, and that's deprecated, and now we have something called streamable HTTP, which is a bit more secure compared to SSE, right? And it's evolving. So let's talk about resource handler. So the resource handler is basically going to read this info and read this information in caps.json and expose it. So let's go deeper inside it. So I have a resource handler. I hope it is visible. I have a resource handler, and resource handler exposes an URI. So URI is capability, kind of a description and name. And what is it going to be? It's a JSON, Markdown, any format, text format or whatever, right? So yeah, so JSON, text format or whatever, right? So next is I need to read the JSON and respond it back. So we have Appium resource handler, which basically uses read resource request schema, which fulfills the request. Whenever a request comes from client or root as a client, it is going to serve the JSON. How? Basically, we read the JSON and just return it. That's it, nothing. So this is the format that we have to strictly abide by. So I was also talking about JSON RPC, right? So that's the communication protocol between the client, MCP client, which is client or root here, and an MCP server, either hosted locally or hosted in a remote through SSE or streamable. So this is going to happen if the URI contains capabilities, and that's when we read the JSON and send that back. We are not doing much. So that's one. And then let's go through tools first. Tools next. So we have some tools. So the second problem statement was, how about exposing, getting the knowledge of failures, going through an Appium logs and understanding what had triggered this failure, right? So what the tool is going to do today is, as part of Appium MCP, is it's going to fetch the data from Appium log. So we do have one sample test, which is written in WebDriver. WebDriver IO again. So the sample test is gonna have some issues. We planted certain issues basically. And yeah, this is the Appium log. So now, what if my MCP server reads this log, understands the problem, it also knows certain 𝐐𝐤 capabilities, and then it goes ahead and fills the gaps. Like, no, bang on, this is the problem, now you have to fix it. And client can go ahead and fix it because client as a coding agent knows that knowledge now. So let's see how does the internal works. Similar to resource request schema, we have tool request schema, which lists all the tools available in MCP. And for now, in MCP Appium, we have one, which is Appium log insights, right? Which kind of analyzes Appium logs and provides basic insights, like let's say no such element exception, so it failed. And you have to change it because of so and so reasons. You change the XPath or accessibility ID, or change it to class chain, which is valid information. So it takes, this has an input schema, which is basically this information is required for it to work. So it needs the log. It needs the log data, which we have here, appium.log. And the implementation of this, how do we analyze it, right? So we have a simple analyzer. So as like we had listing and reading on resources, we have listing and calling on tools. So let's see the implementation of this specific tool. Let's say if the tool name is Appium Log Insights, and this is what exactly we are going to do. So we know the log path where exactly the data is, and this MCP server is running locally. So it has the access to that specific file, which user approves it, right? So if the log path is available, don't worry, I will plug it. So if the log path is available, we are going to return the content of the log file. And if not available, we are going to throw it out. And if it is available, we are going to read the file and analyze the exceptions. So what do? So we do see search patterns. We do pattern matching. So when we do pattern matching, we understand, okay, these are the places where the failures have actually happened. Now, again, pattern matching each and every line by line, and then understand, okay, these are the places where we had issues. Now we have 2-3 lines before and after, and feed this information back to client. Client knows about capabilities, client knows about the issues. So client as an agent can, one of the best coding agent if it is powered with any of the wonderful reasoning models, best coding models. So now in our case, we are going to use what's that? Anthropic 4, Claude Sonnet 4. So it's going to push me back with this JSON, and let's see how does it works end to end. So any questions before we move on?
I think there was only one question which you sort of answered, but a little more to go there. Can we be able to make MCP itself to find locators from DOM and make it a script? Yes, Balaji, we can do that. So me and Srini are working on another MCP which will actually do that. Create all the possible locators for that specific page, and it'll sort of create that files for you in your desired language. So we will open source that as well soon.
Yeah, we do have a bunch of things lined up. We do have one today as well. We're just waiting for a few creatives to release something. Probably we'll talk about what we could anticipate end of day today from us as well. So we do have this, and we have the Appium. When I say Appium server, is basically the MCP server here. Just give me a second. Let me also figure out if everything is well and good. Awesome. So I don't have any TypeScript errors or anything. So now comes the client part. So I have okay. As I said, I'm going to use client. And when you install client, you can go to this portion called MCP servers. And if you have a remote server, you need to give the URL and name of the remote server. Probably some authentication might be required, depends upon the implementation. And in our case, this is a locally installed MCP server. Yep, I do have it already configured. But yeah, generally how it looks like is if you click on configure MCP server, I'm gonna just run this file. I'm gonna just run this file. Just give me a second. I'm gonna just run this file using TS node, which is index.ts. And how are we gonna run it? TS node, and just let's try in local whether it runs first. So slash index.ts. Perfect. So just the same command, but with the full path so that it can understand. The type we have to mention here as stdio, standard input output, because it's a local server. And now that we have MCP Appium up and running, and if everything is well and good, we will also be able to see this is the tool that this particular MCP provides. Analyze Appium logs and provides insight. Resources basically has the capability to return all the Appium caps. So these two information we have, let's go ahead and quickly test it out. Create a new task and get me the list of capabilities for iOS in Appium using my MCP server. So client has access to my knowledge, which is the caps.json through MCP server. So it is also smart enough to read the local file. So hopefully it talks to the MCP server. Yes. So you can see it is smart enough to access, let's say there are so many MCP servers available are configured in my client MCP settings.json. It is gonna actually make it is smart enough to make a call to that particular tool from the particular server that is active. And let me approve it. It does gives me quite a few. So now client gives me, okay, these are the core iOS capabilities, and these are the ones responsible for WebDriver agent configuration, Safari and web context, security and signing, accessibility and UI, localization, performance and logging. It does have a mix of both, like common and common for Android and iOS platform, and also specific to iOS. So this is wonderful. So we are just feeding our client with a private knowledge base so that either my client or my server, MCP host has the capability. In this case, it's a client agent, which has the capability, wonderful coding agent, which has the capability to infer and take decisions on its own. So as I said, I'm using Anthropic Claude Sonnet 4. So now I wanted it to analyze my Appium log. Analyze my Appium log, Appium::log, and provide me insights about the failures using MCP. So talk to appropriate tool. So the first one was a resource, and this one is a tool. So it has given that path. So it does provide me fixed capability configuration. Okay, let's see what does the tool has responded. Okay, exception detected, platform name can't be blank. Let me see what do we have. And since it's planted, so we know that. So it's not platform name, it's platform name. Okay, platform name can't be blank because we have given platform. Okay, perfect. And no cached connection. I think this is fine. Archive didn't have a matching app or IPA bundle. Yeah, I don't have this file exactly on my local. Cool, these are the two problems, and it can infer and then give me answers. Basically, it has the knowledge base to provide me an answer. So now, if I ask it to update this code, and let's say, probably let's ask another one. Tell me what capabilities are required to run Appium WebDriver IO test available here to run parallelly on two iOS devices. Show me the gaps. Okay, where is the file? Lead is Appium respect.ts. Yes. So don't ever auto approve. We'll talk about it. Why? Understand what it is asking for it. Okay. So it has the caps already. So instead of going to the caps, it went to the caps.json and read it. We can also explicitly say use my MCP server. So it will basically do a tool call, a resource call, get the caps rather than accessing the file directly. See, the WDA local port has to be unique. So system port has to be unique. UDID has to be unique for each device. The JPEG server port if you are doing a screencasting. So yeah. And we don't need to run this one. So if you, I think we can feed in more knowledge about Appium server parallelization. So it can basically take a decision on how, because it doesn't know. Appium has the capability to run parallelly by using single Appium server instance from 1.08 or something. Yeah. Cool. That's what MCP server is capable of. And maybe we can quickly touch base before we get to security. Maybe we can quickly touch base on our recap of what we have seen so far. So we have seen client server architecture of MCP, client being the client and the server which runs in our local, which is standard input output transport, so that Appium MCP can basically feed in extra knowledge, which is the capabilities.json, and it also provides a tool to get some insights or gain some insights about Appium logs. So the the opportunities here are vast. So some of the Appium MCP servers that me and Sai have open sourced is Appium gestures and also WebDriver agent. The toughest part in running on iOS is configuring WebDriver agent on real device. So Appium's MCP WebDriver agent solves that problem. So likewise, we are going to release in some time after this call is gonna be secure MCP. So MCP comes with tons of problems. It is not so. There is a lot of hype, which is very true, but it comes with its own problems. But we have to be very cautious. So when we are approving it, we need to figure out whether we are approving for the right file, or we may end up giving access. The common problems could be prompt injection attack. What if a system prompt is injected through my MCP server and it gains access to all the environment variables that I have in my system, and then probably shares it with someone behind the scenes? So I think it is important to make sure that there is no malicious prompt embedded in any of the tool responses or resource responses. So the prompt injection attacks are quite common, and most of the times, that's one of the reasons why SSE is also deprecated and in favor of streamable HTTP, right? Which is prompt injection attacks on local MCP is, it's very common. So don't approve anything which doesn't make sense, and do monitor what does your MCP results looks like. How does it looks like? And another one is called tool poisoning, wherein someone maliciously compromised your tools and then return some malicious data, right? Some sensitive data or some malicious data, or throws away some fake tool, which does end up doing some harmful behavior. And there is another problem called data exfiltration, sensitive data leakage again through any of these MCP servers. And so likewise, there is a lot of it comes with a lot of issues. So we need to be very cautious on what we are giving access to on our local system. How does your responses looks like? So me and Sai have worked on it, and we thought, okay, it makes sense to verify what responses we get, access a proxy middle layer, and we can. How does I mean, how about having a tool that could scan your MCP server and tells me, okay, there is nothing malicious on the first attempt, right? So it also has integrations with OpenAI moderations, Hugging Face models, which comes with identifying any toxicity, and I think Nemo from NVIDIA. So these all provide certain guardrails. So probably you can anticipate that available in open source world in some time as well. Any questions?
Yeah, we have like about 3 questions, Srini. I think 2 of them we answered. So we have 3. I'll go from bottom up.
Sure.
So what indicator should I look for to know whether a testing problem is a good fit for MCP? Interesting. So this is again very subjective, right? See what problem. So this is not like a, what do you call it? It's not like a silver bullet. It's going to solve all your problems that you're going to write. So think through, where your team basically is struggling, or you spend more time and you can increase your productivity, and maybe that's the space where you can start looking into see if an MCP can be a right fit, right? So I can, probably here we can take a good another good example is, so when you are writing your test automation scripts, you run it, it fails. So typically your failure reasons could be multiple things, right? So I'm not going to use this a term of a flaky test, because it's just not the test, right? It could be multiple things. Maybe your environment is down, probably your downstreams are down, or probably it could be a locator change and stuff like that, right? So in this case, maybe you in around those areas. So generally, if it's a locator change, you basically go inspect, get it, fix it, and stuff like that. So in those spaces, if you want to, quickly fix it on the fly, and probably there an MCP can be a very good space for you. It's more like you're self-healing your tests there and then changing the locators, and it understands based on the kind of error that was, like how Srini was showing you, right? And it can go and fix your test. I think that's one example where it could be a good one. Or probably another space is you know, like using it for, for your low level tests to see your coverages from your integration, units, integrations, and stuff like that. So again, it's very subjective where your problem lies, and maybe you could decide whether writing an MCP server around that to solve it could basically help. Because today, if you see, there are a lot of MCP servers like MCP Playwright, MCP Selenium, MCP, Appium. So what basically they do, it all that it tries to solve is, if you're taking, like, let's say about let's say you take an hour or two to write a certain number of tests, probably instead of an hour, these MCP servers with the help of these clients can basically do that very quickly for you. Instead of like 1 2 hours, maybe they can just do it for you in like 15 20 minutes, right? So that's the kind of productivity that you can see by using these MCPs around your problems. Do we need some bugs in order to make requests to those MCP servers?
Yeah, I think they were talking about the tokens.
Yeah.
Yes, the MCP clients like 𝐕𝐢𝐝, Cloud Desktop, or Client, one of the best coding agent. So if you want to use it, yes, of course, we need to, because these all talks to LLMs.
And again, if you see, Srini was talking about Klein and Rue. The reason that we keep switching between both is comparatively, Rue uses less tokens than Klein is what we have seen. So we basically use Rue so that the tokens are consumed less, so that we save some bucks money there. And
Yeah,
also,
sorry. Or otherwise, you can spin up DeepSeek on your local and then use
yeah,
probably Llama or some tokens on
yeah,
your local. But
yeah,
again, comes with your own capacity of your device.
machines. Yeah, yeah. How can we integrate these MCP servers to the existing Java-based mobile automation frameworks? So, Nivi, like Srini was talking about, right? I mean, it has, I mean, it's basically doesn't know anything to do with your, whether it's Java, JavaScript, Python, right? So, Srini, can you like share your screen, Srini, very quickly. And probably for the MCP server which we built, we can go and ask it like, hey, can you write a simple, uh, you know, Appium test in Java? So it's actually going to, look through those capabilities, and it's actually going to build a Java-based test for you. So it's like, it's not tied very specific to your Java as and such.
What
Yeah.
security considerations should teams keep in mind when implementing AI within their QA pipelines using MCP? Yes. So what we have seen as a pattern, we do have a privilege to download these MCP servers from NPM. So people just bluntly download and give as much access as possible. So it can take sweep away all the environment variables and do whatever. Let's say if it takes a client token or cloud token, for example, somebody else might be using it behind the scenes, which we don't know, right? So again, we need to understand how the tool responds. What's the description of the tool? Does it inject something? What kind of resources that it has access to? What resources that you are providing access to it? If the code is available, I mean the MCP server code is available, then do take a look at the code, do some scanning with your security team, or probably some scanners available. Again, these are pretty new to the market, right? So MCP itself is gaining boom pretty recently, although it was there since mid of last year. So scanners are also catching up. Yeah, but don't just rely on the scanners itself. So go ahead and understand what kind of access that you are also providing to the tools. Yeah.
Connecting MCP Playwright, are these secure when hooked up with Cursor AI? So Amit, like Srini said, right? I mean, these are all open source, so you can go look through how these tools have been written, what kind of descriptions are given to these tools, right? So as a user, if once you go look through these, you'll know basically what they're trying to do. So let's say, for example, MCP Playwright would have certain tools like, open a browser, close a browser, find an element, or click on an element, and things like that, right? So basically, so these are all basically tools for you, and these tools will have a description. So when you go look to these descriptions of the tools, you'll basically know what are they actually doing. Are they only just opening up a URL in a browser, or are they doing something more? So I think that's the way that you could basically say that, okay, that specific tool is secured for me to use, and especially when it's open source, you definitely need to go through it. I hope we answered that. Shilpa has a question here. So I think we are overshooting time stream. Maybe we can pick this.
Yeah.
Currently, we have like about 1K tests automated in Cypress, and we need to transition these to Playwright. And what's the approach to follow? So she needs chip in here. So I think I think someone had basically asked us a question sometime back, that what could be the problem statement that we basically want to do, right? I think this is a very good solid problem statement that you want to do, but this could basically, I would name this something like in an MCP to, Playwright transition, or a Playwright migration and stuff like that, right? So basically, I mean, this is where a proper MCP could fit in. But think through if there are like 1K tests for you. So that means client's going to read through it, understand it, because it needs to know, right, what locators you have, and you need to feed it some knowledge, right? So of course, like how Srini did the caps knowledge, so you want to feed that. So you want to build an MCP around it for the migration. So consider, that amount of tests. So client's going to read it, and then the migration is going to happen. So you're of course going to burn that number of tokens. So there's a cost tied to it. But otherwise, I think this is a very good idea to actually build as well, for people who want to like sort of migrate these kind of tests. So, but definitely when you do that, you need to like sort of give it a kind of a resource to say, hey, these are the kind of locators I have in Cypress, which maps to Playwright. So it's easier for it. Otherwise, it's just going to go haywire, pull a lot of things that it thinks that it's going to work.
So how does versioning work with MCP powered test tools? So for every MCP server, at least for the local ones, please do have a look at the versions. It's available in NPM actually as a package manager, right? So when you are install a particular version, which basically if you use npx, let's say mcp-appium@001, then it will install that specific version. And if you use @latest, So if you restart, it will automatically fetch and pull down all the latest one that is available at that moment in time in NPM module. Yep.
And also, I mean, Srini is talking about NPX because we're talking about Node. But if you're building, I think in the beginning, someone asked, can we build MCP servers in any of the tech stacks? Yes, of course, it could be even in Python. So if it's Python, it's going to be a pip, right? So of course, instead of NPX, it'll be a pip for you over there. So whichever registry that you push to, you basically pull out the latest from there. Okay, we have a last question. I don't see any questions there. We have around 400 Appium tests for each platform running on Jenkins daily, and it takes a lot of time for maintenance. Can this help? Again, Rama, this is, I mean, you're asking a question at a bird's eye level, right? Because what is taking a lot of time to maintain? Are your tests failing? Are your locators changing? Is it your infra? Or do you have faster release cycles, so you want to add more tests in your sprints? I mean, there are too many questions tied to follow up this question. So probably if you want to type in a follow-up question, I think Devansh, if we can have a minute or two, if we can take up, if there's something on that, then maybe we can try to answer that. I mean, I don't think I can just throw out an answer for that question because it's very, very high level. Okay, I see a chat. He says makes sense. So I mean, do you want to ask something in specific, Rama, so that we could answer, or we can just close the person then? Okay, let's close it now. And then probably if you want to talk more, maybe you can connect with us on LinkedIn. We are happy to connect as well. To talk more and help you if you need anything on those spaces. I think that's pretty much what we had, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. It was and also sticking around and listening to us as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much, Srini and Sai, for such an
Thank
insightful and truly engaging session. Just a quick note, if your questions weren't answered during the session, don't worry. A recording will be shared with you over the email, and we will also upload the recording to our YouTube channel, where you can leave your questions in the comments, and we'll make sure to respond with the answers you're looking for. Please feel free to connect with Srini and Sai over LinkedIn or Twitter in case you have any questions or any follow-ups. They're both very active there. And once again, thank you so much for joining us. See you all next time. Have a great day.
you so much, folks. Thank you. Bye-bye.